You can be a category of one if you're trying to be in every category. It sounds obvious, but it truly is something that takes people a while to get. Your willingness to be specific is what creates the magnetism and demand around you. The results are there, the knowledge is there. But what's holding you back is simply the decision to fully claim and own your category of one, to say, this is my lane, this is what I'm the best at. But you cannot build a category of one business with one foot in, one foot out. Legacy is available to anyone who's willing to claim it. But what I am saying is that most people aren't actually willing to make the one hidden choice that creates legacy. I no longer believe that legacy is for everybody. I'm going to start with something today that might land a little bit harsh with you. I no longer believe that legacy is for everybody. Back when I had my leadership development consultancy, it was called Winning Academy, we created this program called Personal Legacy. And the core message inside of that program was that legacy wasn't reserved for a special few people. Everyone is actively creating and leaving and living their legacy, living, leading, all of the things, whether they're conscious of it or not. So while I still believe that to be true on a personal level, creating a legacy level business is different. Not everyone is cut out for legacy in this sense. And before you decide how you feel about that, I want to be really clear about what I mean when I'm saying legacy, because I'm not talking about it in the sense of like capacity, and I'm not talking about it in the sense of worthiness and how most people use that word. Legacy is available to anyone who's willing to claim it. But what I am saying is that most people aren't actually willing to make the one hidden choice that creates legacy. And it has nothing to do with strategy or how talented you are. But this episode is not going to be about like working harder or putting in blood, sweat, and tears to make legacy happen. What I want to talk about today is the specific internal decision that separates the people who build something they'll genuinely be known for from the people who build businesses that are good, but ultimately get stuck in that service provider role. So, welcome to episode 1 in the Category of One series. In this series, I'm going to be sharing 10 separate episodes, each one going deeper into what it actually takes to build a body of work that puts you in a true category of one. And we're going to start here with what creating a category of one legacy level business actually takes, because every other topic in this series is an extension of the one choice you're going to have to make if you want to play this game. So let's get into it. So when most people hear the word legacy, they think about something specific. They think about scale, reach, or being like very well known, like Oprah level. They think about the kind of visibility that comes with that kind of large audience and a recognizable name. And while obviously those people create and have a legacy, that's not the only way to think about this word. I think that the idea around creating a legacy level business is one that is not reserved just for scale. And I think that when people think about legacy in that way, that's why so many talented people never actually get to the point where they create legacy level businesses. So the legacy that I'm talking about starts from an internal decision and a belief. And is rooted in this sense of worthiness that goes beyond what you've accomplished and what already exists in terms of your success. And it's the belief that you've been put here on earth to create something that only you can create, full stop. And so, what I'm talking about here requires a specific kind of confidence that I see so many women not fully owning, and it kills me. The kind of confidence I'm talking about isn't about being loudest or even the most well known, and it's not performative in any way. It's about really being fully embodied in the belief that you are creating something that no one else can create. So, whether you want to reach millions or maybe it's just hundreds, your specific thought leadership, your specific way of working, your methodologies, your skills, your gifts, and energy deserves to win within your own game. You are the main character of your own story. And you have to believe that your success is inevitable. We see this kind of conviction with the greats all the time, and we think it's reserved for people like, I'll just use Serena Williams as an example. She is a category of one, hands down, in her specific game. She has 23 Grand Slam titles and arguably, depending on who you talk to, one of the greatest athletes of any era in any sport. But what made Serena a category of one isn't actually the titles. It was her decision that came like way before them. While other players were cycling through different coaches, chasing different trends, adjusting their game based on what was working, Serena was about mastering her own game. She was known for this. She studied her opponents. Yes, she did do that, but she was also relentless in studying herself. She watched her own game tape. She refined her techniques. And it wasn't because she wasn't like good. She was one of the best, but it's because she refused to be okay with like just good enough. What she became known for was the Serena serve, and that wasn't an accident. It was the result of thousands of hours of specificity, commitment, and a standard that, like, truthfully, most people wouldn't hold themselves to. So I get it. Me nor you are Serena Williams, but I wholeheartedly believe that every single person has a specific space that they can dominate like Serena did in tennis. But here's the piece that doesn't get talked about enough, and it's a huge reason why talented women with decades of experience, credentials, and lessons under their belt take themselves out of the game before it even starts. Most of you, I'm willing to bet, are in some way waiting for proof to move, to think like a category of one leader. Serena didn't wait until she had those 23 Grand Slams to believe she deserved to be the best at her craft. She did decide that first. She claimed it before there was evidence to support it. And then she went on to build the evidence, obviously. And that's what I mean when I say worthiness to claim your category of one. And how this worthiness isn't something that you earn, it's something that you like decide. Like full stop, a one-time line in the sand kind of moment. And if you're waiting for proof, you're just never going to get there. So this decision, this is the choice that so many people are not willing to make. And so if you're listening to this, it's more than likely that you have enough proof already. I know this because after so many years, 10 years doing this work, working with hundreds of women, I know that for most of you, the experience is there. The results are there. The knowledge is there. But what's holding you back is simply the decision to fully claim and own your category of one, to say, this is my lane. This is what I'm the best at. So when I say legacy isn't for everyone, this is what I'm speaking to. Building a legacy level business where you're in a category of one can only happen if you make that choice. So why doesn't everyone actually make that choice? And that's actually what I want to get into for the rest of this episode. So as I mentioned, I've been working with women, coaches, consultants, and industry experts for over a decade doing this kind of IP codification work. And in that time, I've watched these same patterns appear over and over again in like slightly different ways. But at the root of it, people tend to have everything they need to build something that's genuinely legacy level, but they bump up against these patterns that act as a ceiling for their potential. So I'm going to name today 4 of these patterns because these are the things that we want to all look at directly to make sure that they aren't impacting or getting in your way. And I want to be really clear from the beginning, these aren't like jabs at your character. These are actually like sneaky protection mechanisms that the ego puts into place to keep us safe. So they were developed for good reasons, but they just cannot stay if you want to be a category of one. And this is where the self-leadership, the self-mastery game comes into play. The first pattern is chasing shiny objects. And I'm willing to bet you know this one. The moment where someone in your space is saying that they're doing really well with this like new marketing tactic, maybe a new offer, a new angle. I mean, it's endless, right? Especially with so much change in AI. And you start to think about maybe I should be doing that. Maybe I'm missing something. And so you pivot or you test or you add something else on. So now you have more versus really owning your lane, your thing. And the underlying belief driving this is that your lane and what you're owning isn't enough on its own. If you stay in it fully, you'll be missing something. So you need to keep your options open. But legacy builders don't operate from that kind of belief. They stay in their lane with a kind of conviction that looks like from the outside, like they're, relentless, obsessed, stubborn. But from the inside, it's just that they trust in the inevitable future that what they're doing is what they're supposed to be doing. Their lane is enough. And that they're not in competition with anyone else because they truly are playing their own game. And the cost of pivoting, the cost of chasing these shiny objects is so real because every time you pivot, you reset your positioning in the market. Every time you shift, you're asking your audience to kind of reorient to you. And you never get far enough to own that like expert authority positioning because you keep chasing that shiny object. So the second pattern I want to talk about is trying to be everything to everyone. This one is especially common among people who like actually care about their work. And I think that's important because this doesn't come from like laziness or anything like that. It usually comes from the fear that being specific means leaving people out. And leaving people out means leaving money on the table. So instead, they create a million offers instead of this deliberate ecosystem of signature offers. Their positioning stays super broad. They say yes to clients who aren't really that perfect fit. And the messaging stays vague that almost anyone could see themselves in it. So in this case, the business and the individual stays busy, but they never truly become that category of one. On the other hand, legacy builders understand something that takes a lot of people time to realize. You can't be a category of one if you're trying to be in every category. It sounds obvious, but it truly is something that takes people a while to get. Your willingness to be specific is what creates the magnetism and demand around you. When your ideal client comes up against your work and they can see themselves in it, when they can think that's exactly for me, and you cannot do that when you have vague positioning or generalized positioning. It makes you blend in and you end up falling into the land of the underpaid and underrecognized generalist when you could be a well-paid specialist with a waitlist of demand. The third pattern we're going to talk about is speaking about your work casually. And for this one's sneaky because it sounds like humility. It sounds like being relatable. It sounds like I just help people with, or, I do this kind of work, or I work with a variety of people. Like, no, just no. And I get it because what's underneath this is usually a fear of coming across as arrogant or over claiming, and it doesn't feel super safe. And that's totally totally understandable. And it's something that I've worked on myself over the past few years, so I do get it. But the cost is that your language trains your people how to value you. So casual language signals casual expertise. Even though the work you do with people, like the way you literally transform lives, is anything but casual. So legacy builders have mastered their work. They know how they work. They know their methods inside and out. And they can not only know them intuitively, but they can speak to it with absolute precision. They don't overcomplicate it and they don't minimize it. They describe what they do and the impact it creates with this like embodied confidence because they actually know and understand how they're doing what they're doing. So the fourth and final pattern we're going to talk about is hedging. And this is a big one. And it tends to be the last one to really shift out of these patterns for people because it's the most defended. Hedging looks like keeping all of your options open. So I work with anyone who needs blank, or you're positioning yourself in a way that doesn't fully commit to anything so that you're not leaving money on the table. It's kind of this 1 foot in, 1 foot out approach. And I say this with so much compassion because, again, I've been guilty of this myself, but you cannot build a category of one business with 1 foot in, 1 foot out. It just cannot work. Your potential clients in the market feels this wishy-washy hedging going on. And especially premium buyers, they're not just buying a service, they're buying your belief that you can deliver on your promise, that you have a process or a system that will get them the result that they're looking for reliably. So when you're 1 foot out, 1 foot in, 1 foot out, saying that you can do this and you can do that, you're not really giving yourself the authority and the confidence of your ideal clients. Legacy builders, what they do is they plant a flag. They say, this is my lane, this is my game, this is who I'm for, this is what I stand for. And that commitment is made internally before there's any external proof for it. So to recap, the 4 patterns that get in the way of you owning that category of one, your category of one, and building a legacy level business are chasing shiny objects, trying to be everything to everyone, speaking about your game-changing work super casually, and hedging. And here's what I want you to notice about these 4 patterns. They all trace back to the same root. Every single one of them is a version of not fully seeing yourself as a category of one, whether that's around worthiness or fully owning it or stepping into the spotlight and fully claiming it. And this is the problem that is not a strategy problem. This is why you can do all the strategy work in the world and still not see the shift. So here's what I want you to leave with from this episode so you can get a sense for where we're going in this series. Claiming your category of one is the foundation. Everything else gets built around this. So the decision is the first thing. And then from here, we're going to get into what you need from there. You need a big idea that your ideal clients can actually see themselves in. And that's what we're going to talk about in episode 2. You also need to know how to carve out your category of one so it is perfectly positioned to highlight your skills, your gifts, and your experience and meet a need in the market. That's episode 3. You also need to understand what's actually driving your premium ideal buyers right now. In what I'm calling the depth economy, what we're in right now, the old approaches to visibility about just being the loudest and like people buying on vibes are not producing the same kind of results they once did. So we're going to dive into that in episode 4. And then we're going to get into methodology. And this is one of my favorite topics to talk around. How to extract what's in your head into something ownable, teachable, and scalable, and something that actually creates a legacy level business. So we are going on a journey together, and I'm so excited to get into this with you. Now, as I said at the beginning, this conversation isn't for everyone. Legacy isn't for the people who need to keep every option open. It's not for people who are comfortable with like just good enough. It's for people who are willing to stay in their lane even when the results aren't there yet, who are willing to become specialists, and when being that generalist does feel safer. It's for people who are willing to plant a stake in the ground and lead from there before any external proof is fully caught up to their internal decision. And if you're here, you've made it to the end, and you've enjoyed this conversation, you are absolutely in the right place and you're going to love this series. So I'm going to see you in the next episode where we break down the importance of building around a big idea. This is a single idea your entire body of work gets built around, and it's a conversation I used to have very often inside of the corporate world, big brand world, but I don't often see happen outside of big brands. But it is so important, and especially when you are creating a category of one business that is about more than you. So I'll see you in the next episode.